So there was a comment on, or a question on Facebook today, is there any reason that we shouldn't hit the road? So it's a very common question that pops up on Facebook, and it was on a page called Road Schooling. So basically the page is for families that travel full-time on the road and educate their children on the road, which is what we do. Hello, Pepper. So basically I've decided to make this video to try and give some kind of an idea of what it's like to be full-time on the road with kids, the pros and the cons. I'm going to ask the kids some questions, and hopefully this will give you some idea as to whether it's a good idea or not a good idea. In saying that, the first thing I probably would say is that I personally don't believe it's for everybody. I was in a job that I didn't really enjoy. You know, it's like that old story. Yeah, you have dreams and goals in life, and then you kind of fall into the expectations of society. You know, have a good job or a good career, get a mortgage, you know, have the 2.5 kids and the nice dog and all that kind of stuff, and buy the SUV. And, you know, I'm not saying it's exactly like that, but, you know, we get this idea, I think, in our heads of how we're supposed to be living life. Cindy used to have me up at 10:30 at night on a Wednesday night in the pouring rain, making a bivouac in the backyard, and I'm just like, oh, but I've got work tomorrow, I'm going to be up at 7 o'clock, you know. And so I think Cindy and I both have relatively adventurous natures, so this life fits us really well. The other thing I would say is, when we got married, I think we moved house 11 times in the first 7 years, for no other reason than we were bored and we like change. So I think if you have a personality type that really enjoys change and stuff, you would love this lifestyle. So some people find this life a lot harder than others. Normally I find probably predominantly what I call left brain people who are more structured, more analytical, like routine and stuff, may find this life a little bit more challenging. You know, the other thing too is, you know, we've met people who are a little bit more introverted struggle more with this life, because you are confined to a smaller space. And the thing I love about this life is, whatever it's doing outside, I love to get out, you know, and explore, or run up and down the beach. You know, it's just magic. The nights, you know, you get beaches to yourself and you get to lie in the sand and look at the stars and listen to the ocean. You know, I love that. That's my super happy place. Yeah, so I remember that last 3 weeks of absolute panic, thinking, what have I done? I've given up all this security to go onto the road with, you know, the unknown. At that stage we didn't know how to make a living on the road, really. We were very green. It was very new to us, and we didn't know a lot at all. And at that stage there wasn't actually any YouTube channels or videos or anything you could really go and watch a whole lot of when we first started. Now there's obviously tons of it. And I remember having these thoughts of, oh no, where's the security, and what are we going to do for money? And, you know, and it's just, and I think we kind of trick ourselves into thinking that having the nice house and having the good job is actually security. I've always had to say that movement creates opportunity, and I think the whole thing of getting out and having an adventure and exploring and going into the unknown and facing those fears of the unknown actually creates new opportunities. Other positives, you know, I get to be at home with the kids all day. For some that may not be a positive, I don't know, but for me it is, because, you know, when I was at work I wasn't having that relationship with the kids. I wasn't around them as often. You know, I was missing out on all this stuff. Cindy was going out and drinking coffee all day, and I was, you know, doing a hard slog in the office. Hey, did you see that? I love the whole exploringness. You know, it's like, yeah, one of the fun things for me now is, because we've been around the North Island 3 or 4 times, not all of it. We've been travelling for, what, 4.5 years, and we still haven't even scratched the surface, to be honest. You know, and there's so many cool places to explore. And for me, that's great for the kids. I have a sister who will now have nothing to do with me. So to understand why that is, she is a very traditional school teacher, and we do no curriculum, unschooling, road schooling, life learning, whatever you want to call it. My mother, when she was around, was always, you know, the whole mentality of, oh, you need security for the kids. They need to be able to socialise and stuff like that. And so those were concerns of mine. So I wasn't really pro homeschooling. I was very much, kids need to go to school, they need to socialise with other kids. And that was my mentality. You know, I'm a bit older than Cindy, and I was brought up with older parents. And so I have a very old school mentality about schooling, or I did have, and how kids should be brought up. What I have found, and what I'm amazed by, is how the kids are learning now. You know, I was one of those people that thought homeschooled kids are a little bit unusual, you know, or they don't learn to socialise properly and mix with their peers. Boy, was I wrong. So we met before we went on the road. We actually spent some time with some homeschool families, and I was just blown away by these kids. And so Cindy wanted to take it a step further and do something called unschooling, which is where we don't really follow a curriculum. And I was like, panic, you know, next we'll be dancing naked under the moonlight and drinking kombucha, you know. Cindy makes really nice kombucha, by the way, and no, we don't dance naked under the moonlight. I remember going through, and this is when the penny dropped for me. I remember one occasion where in school I believe they read a book called The Bigger Digger, and I remember we got invited to park at some friends' place on a farm, and one day, you know, they said, oh, do you want to go and have a play on the digger on the farm? They have, I think it was a 12-ton digger or something, and Judah had read the book, The Bigger Digger, but what I also realised then was he was now getting to experience that, an experience that he wouldn't have got in the classroom, and Judah actually got to drive a 12-ton digger by himself. And I can say that, so basically I had to sit in the digger, he sat on my knee, and he was using the controls. I was hands off, and he had actually learnt how to drive a 12-ton digger, and that was probably a couple of years ago now, so he was younger than he is now. So not only did he get to read the book, The Bigger Digger, but he also got to learn how to drive a 12-ton digger. And I thought, that's when the penny dropped, that I thought, they're not just going to learn stuff or get knowledge, they're actually going to have experiences as well. I think education on the road is absolutely fantastic for children. You know, it's diverse, they're not just hanging out with their peers, they get to hang out with all ages of children. They find confidence in building relationships with people. They learn the skills to say, catch you later, and either stay in touch online or know that we're going to come back and catch up with those people. The camps seem to work really well because a lot of times we come together with a lot of the same children.
So like we were here,
yeah,
and then we went to spend the night at the river, and then we're like coming back here.
So did you like it better at the river or better here?
Like I liked it both, but like all the driving.
Oh, it's the driving you don't like?
Yeah, I'm not enjoying the driving.
Oh yeah, but once we're somewhere it's okay, or?
Yeah, once we're somewhere and we're staying there, not leaving, going back and blah 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 blah. Yeah.
So racing off to have to go and do things and then come back again.
Yeah.
Like going to the river for a swim in a hot thermal river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for long drives.
But was the swim nice though?
Yeah.
Do you make friends?
Oh yeah.
Friends?
Yeah, we have heaps of those. Yeah.
So how do you make friends on the road?
Okay, so I make friends usually in two ways.
Yeah.
Online,
Yeah.
playing Fortnite, or just any game. And second way, we go to places and there's people there, and then we talk to the people. Then we go like, hey, you want to be friends? And then they say yes, and then we play and we're friends.
So do you have friends that you see regularly on the road when we're actually travelling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And does that work?
Yeah. So basically, when we're like, you have friends that Mummy and Daddy don't know about on Fortnite. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Probably.
That you play with.
No, I'm pretty sure I know every single one of my friends on Fortnite in real life. I know people in Fortnite that I play with, but I also know the real life name and stuff.
Yeah.
So do you enjoy the camps?
Yeah, it's fun. I like the hot pool camp we went to.
Yeah.
But the thing was, I hardly got to play with Ruby.
So, do you feel like you're missing out on anything by not being at school? Not going to school or living in a normal sort of house?
I want to live in a normal sort of house.
You do?
Yeah.
Judy, you don't feel like you're missing out on anything?
No.
Ziva, why do you think you would like a house?
Well, she wants horses. Yeah.
Horses?
No, don't answer. I want to know what she thinks. Why do you think?
I want horses, yes, Judith's right on that one. I want a golden retriever, and we don't have the room for it in a bus. And we don't have a horse float, so we can't bring our horse anywhere. And we could probably bring the horse float with the van, but then how are we going bring the food cart? And also, there's no tow bar on the back of the bus,
So what if, while we were travelling during the week, because now that we're going to be doing what we're going to be doing on the weekends with the gypsy fair, in regard to the horse riding, do you think it would work if we went to horse trek places during the week? You know, places where you can hire a horse. Would that fix that problem?
yeah, but then a while later we'll get a horse.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Towing the van, towing the food cart, towing a horse float.
A horse float, towing a boat, towing a jet ski, towing a motorbike.
Yeah.
So as far as the negative stuff goes, what was the negative stuff again? Having to drive. You don't like driving.
Yeah.
Um,
I kind of like it as long as we're going somewhere where there's friends or there's something fun that I can do.
so if you like it if there's somewhere with friends or something fun to do. Yeah.
I like the aquatic centre
Yeah.
a lot.
What about when we travel, you guys get to play on your computers and stuff?
Oh yeah,
Fun.
I always play on my computer. Yeah,
So it's better than
actually
travelling in
on
a...
right now. Also, we have
So
a
it's
secret
different to
base.
travelling in a car, eh?
We have a secret area here,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Judah, you have a YouTube channel, is that right?
Yeah,
What's it called?
Judah Space Gaming.
And what do you do on that?
Gaming.
What kind of gaming?
Fortnite. Minecraft. Roblox. And other games. Which I say most of all the games on my welcoming video.
Aha, very cool.
And also in my description.
Yeah.
Channel description.
Yeah.
Would you guys recommend bus life or road life to other kids? Do you reckon that would be cool for other kids to do?
Totally, yeah. But some might not like it. The exact same reason why I don't like it.
So you think it's good for some people, but some people might not like it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, because some people like they want to go horse riding. Some people like big, large spaces and buses. You can get big buses, but yeah.
So
Big, large
what do you
spaces
do
is scary.
when it's like raining or
Play games on the laptop. Yeah. Yeah.
what if you really want to play and run around? Then what do you do?
Put on my jersey and run around.
Yep. Put your jersey on, put your raincoat on,
I just
put your
press-
gumboots on.
Ziva normally puts her togs on,
Yeah,
runs
yeah.
around in the rain.
And I fall over the puddles. Yesterday, I'm pretty sure, was it yesterday? Yesterday or the day before that, we had a water balloon fight.
Yep.
Yeah, it was fun.
Was it cold?
Not really.
Okay, so Ziva pointed out an obvious negative. She would like to learn to ride horses, and it's a lot easier to do when you've got some land to put a horse on, or she would like a bigger dog. And for me, it's like, I'd like to have a big garden, which we can't really do in the bus. So there are always going to be negatives, but for us at the moment, the positives outweigh the negatives. If that ever changes, then we'll start looking at other options. Other negatives would be... Are there other negatives? deciding who's going to empty the toilet.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me personally, because of my personality, I love the life. I can't actually think of many negatives. But like I've said, it's not for everybody, I don't think.
But you have to try it.
But you have to try it.
Give it a go to see if it's going to work or not.
Yeah. You will always get your naysayers. You will always have ones that will give you 100 reasons why not to live this life. At the end of the day, you're the only person that can make that decision. And that's something that I learned very quickly on the road. For the first year, I found myself making excuses to everybody as to why we're living this life, or trying to justify why we're doing things the way we are. The reality is you don't have to. It's your life. My recommendation would be, if you're thinking about it, just do it. Don't hold back. Just give it a go. And if you find out it's not for you, stop. Go back to your old life. No big deal. One thing I want to talk about is the first year of travel, and I've had this conversation recently with some people that we've met on the road and now become friends with. Hopefully we'll bump into them again soon. Real nice couple. They were at the point where they were ready to give up. They had kind of been on the road, I think, for around 6 months, and were kind of like squashy. You know, they've got a relatively small vehicle. When going on the road, if you need to pick a vehicle, feel free to get in touch with us. I'm happy to give you some advice on what to look for. It really does make a difference. The funny thing is, size doesn't matter, in a sense that we've had to downsize our bus because I had a heart attack and a stroke last year and lost my HT license. However, with downsizing, buying the right kind of bus, we've been able to do a layout that we've been talking about for a couple of years. And even though the bus is smaller, the layout kind of works better. It would work. The only thing is we lost our bedroom area, so the compromise is we have to make our bed up at night. But there is always, you do need to consider what vehicle you buy. You know, and I say that because these people that we've recently met, as I said, they were considering giving up. But what I want to mention is the first year of travel. One thing I'll just quickly touch on is different stages you go through. So number one was the excitement of the idea, you know, the fantasy of living on the road, of living this incredible life and swimming with dolphins and mermaids and exploring magical forests and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I went through that fantasy stage. You know, I'd spend a lot of time online just looking at pictures of different places in New Zealand I wanted to go and explore. Then I went through the fear stage, which was literally 3 weeks before we went travelling, and thinking, what have I done? How are we going to live? How are we going to make money? What happens if this happens? And what happens if that happens? So there were those stages. The one I really want to talk about is the first year of travel. And my personal thoughts on that is you need to give it at least 2 years. A lot of people go, oh, we'll do it for 12 months and see how it goes. And then a lot of people will settle back into suburbia or whatever. Call the first year the year of undoing. And the reason I called it that is, number one, I find in normal life, we find our identity in our jobs or careers. We find our identity in the stuff that we own, the people we associate with, all that kind of stuff. And we build this life that fits us, that we believe fits us, and hopefully tends to match our values and stuff like that of what we believe, or I would maybe be so bold as to say, or what society has dictated as being the right way to live. So when you go on the road for the first year, all of a sudden you'll find there's a lot more free time. So sometimes you can find yourself in a position where you might be questioning who you are as a person, where your values have been, what's important to you, what's not important to you. You know, I was one of those people, I was one of the most loved consumers by shops possible. You know, I always had to have a new phone. I used to love collecting watches, and I don't actually even wear one. I liked stuff. I like to have the nice vehicle, you know. And I found a lot of that buying stuff really was probably because I wasn't entirely happy living the life I was, and it was just to meet a need. It gave me that moment of, oh, I've got a new phone, or I've got a new car, or I've got, you know what I mean? And so I suddenly realised that about myself, and so now I think my phone, I don't know, oh, it's up there, the screen's smashed on it, you know, it's got glitches and all sorts, and I actually just don't care now because my priorities have changed so much that stuff actually doesn't really mean a lot anymore. I still like nice things. I will buy a new phone, but I don't find those things necessary. So it really challenges your core values and who you are as a person. The other thing I found really hard is, and dare I say it, we are dictated to by media, by television, by things like that. When we began to travel, suddenly you see, I think, life for what it is. You know, we've had nights, and I remember, you know, coming back to the bus, just almost all like teary-eyed and a bit kind of emotional because, you know, we were parking next to a lot of homeless families and people, and hearing their stories, and suddenly you'll find yourself in a more vulnerable place than you ever have when you're in a house with four walls and fences and only getting to know the neighbours you want to know. So just be prepared that the first year will really challenge who you are. You know, it'll challenge you because of the lack of space on rainy days. It will challenge you because you're spending more time with your kids or your partner. It will challenge you for several reasons because it suddenly strips away everything you've known or everything that you've had as this is my boundary, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. So my encouragement there would be, if you're going to do this life, give it more than a year. Don't judge the first year because, man, the more we get into this life, the more enjoyable it became, the more natural it felt, the more you get to suck the life out of it. You know, you get the best out of it because you start feeling comfortable with parking in random places. It builds your confidence in building new relationships with people. It gives you a better understanding of who you are as a person, I think. And then you start really enjoying it. So as some of you may or may not know, at the end of last year I had a major heart attack and a stroke. You know, I just want to say I'm glad it happened while we were on the road, because if I hadn't survived that, at least I was living the life that I love. You know, I think, you know, I guess if you've got goals or you've got dreams, stop listening to what everyone else says, get on with it, because none of us are promised tomorrow. You know, for me, I was literally 10 minutes away from being out of this planet last year. And a lot of people said to me, oh, maybe it's time to settle down. Maybe it's time to, you know, get back into maybe a more stable job again and get a house. And I'm like, no way. You know, what that highlighted for me is that if we've got an idea in our minds or we've got something we want to do in life, to actually just do it. All I can say is I'm just glad that we were doing what we're doing, that I was getting to spend the time that I spend with my kids. Or, you know, my mother was older, she, you know, passed away a few months ago, and the fact that I got to spend quality time with her and as much time as I wanted to, you know, has made all the difference. And to me, that's a huge plus for this lifestyle. So yeah, my final thoughts are, it's not for everyone. If you've been thinking about it, definitely do it. Give it more than a year, because the first year will start to you'll only be just starting to find your feet probably by the end of the year. Get the right kind of bus, motorhome, whatever to travel, makes all the difference. We're onto our third bus and I think we're finally getting it right. What else? What's another key point?
Be open-minded.
Oh, be open-minded. A lot of people, when they travel, go out with opinions and stuff. I think you've got to let all that go, because Be somebody who's flexible, be somebody who will learn continuously, even as adults. You know, the kids, I personally believe, are learning heaps on the road. And, you know, we spend time with state school children, and we spend time with our kids and other kids like ours, and they're usually pretty feral looking, but that's all good too. And the difference is huge. You know, I personally can't think of any better way to educate your children. So yeah, I'll leave you with, if you're thinking about it, definitely do it. I say the worst day on the bus is better than the best day in the office. One thing that you need to remember, and I think, you know, a lot of people go out with the fantasy of what this life is going to be like, just realise life carries on. You know, I didn't expect to have a heart attack at the end of last year. You know, we have bad days. You know, there's days where Cindy and I will be at each other. There's days where the kids are driving me mad. But I also realise that when we go and stay with friends and they're living in suburbia, that they have the very same issues. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. So, you know, you'll have good days and you'll have bad days. It's not the perfect life, but it's pretty close, you know. And just remember that life continues, whether you're in a bus, whether you're in a house, whatever you're doing, you're going to have good days and bad days. So don't let, you know, a bad day in a bus put you off. Somebody put it, I thought, quite well across to me recently when we were speaking to them, that things kind of look bigger because you're in a smaller space. But they're actually not. It's the exact same stuff that would be going on if you were in a house, in a state school, with a 9-to-5 job. And we've just got to remember that. You're going to have your good days, you're going to have your bad days, but I personally think the good days far outweigh the bad days. So just remember, it's not all fantasy, it's not all dolphins and mermaids and rainbows and cupcakes, but it's pretty close. No, well, we found that. But just remember, you're going to have crap days no matter what. Don't let money stop you from doing this. My recommendation would be, don't have a vehicle that you're paying off while you're travelling. Eliminate all debt first, which is what we did. We got rid of debt, or minimised our debt. We had savings. We didn't have a huge amount of savings. You know, I've had people say to me, oh, we've only got you know, $200,000 or $300,000 in the bank, do you think we'll be okay? And I just laugh my head off. If I told you how much we started with in savings, you'd be like, no way. It would scare a lot of people away. And yet, I think if you've got enough savings for, like we had enough savings that we knew we could live comfortably for 7 months before I had to find work. And you find opportunities well before 7 months is up. So really it comes back to your skill base, what you want to do. I mean, worst comes to worst, go and pick fruit for a season, and you can probably live a year off that in the bus anyway. Because cost of living, I mean, we've done it. I think when we first started and we were quite green on how to make money on the road and stuff, we were living on, was it $157 a week? I'll just put it out there, and it wasn't awesome, but it was doable. You know, you've got to remember, you don't have rent, you don't have power bills, you don't have all these extra expenses things. You know, yes, you do have maintenance, you've got to be aware of that in a bus. You know, so either get really good at learning how to fix your bus, or have enough savings to deal with that, or money coming in to deal with that. But I just found, if you eliminate big costs and outstanding debts and stuff, or as much as you can before you hit the road, it makes a huge difference.